Had it not been for my easel, my paintbrushes, and my paints, I could not write this story, because that is what got me from point A to point B, and I didn't give up. But I painted all day long. If I couldn't sleep at night, I painted, you name it, I painted. I painted my way through the whole thing. And that is one of the best medicines, art.
Welcome to the BoldBrush Show, where we believe that fortune favors the bold. Brush. My name is Laura Bayer, and I'm your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we are a podcast that covers art marketing techniques and all sorts of business tips specifically to help artists learn to better sell their work. We interview artists at all stages of their careers, as well as others who are in careers tied to the art world in order to hear their advice and insights. For today's episode, we sat down with Cindy Barron, a Rhode Island-based landscape painter with mastery in both watercolor and oil paint. Cindy shares how she identifies first as a mother and grandmother, and then as an artist. She emphasizes that passion and continual growth are the foundations of her creative life. She explains her methodical, problem-solving approach to painting, how she embraces mistakes as essential teachers, and even uses dancing and exercise in front of her works to resolve artistic decisions. Cindy reveals deeply personal health struggles and describes how her easel, brushes, and paints became the lifeline that carried her through pain, and how for her, art is the best medicine. On the professional side, Cindy offers business and marketing advice for artists, staying professional online, regularly creating new work, building relationships with galleries, and using shows, magazines, and social media strategically. She closes by urging aspiring artists not to procrastinate, to just do it despite fear of failure, and mentions her upcoming solo show, workshops, travels, and that her in-progress book, The Guilt Box, will further share her story. Welcome, Cindy, to the BoldBrush Show. How are you today?
I am great. It's a wintry day here, but it's beautiful, so I'm great. I hope you're doing good. You're far away, so
Yes.
I know it's winter for you too, and night.
Yes, although it's probably much colder where you are, funny enough. Since you guys had a crazy snowstorm, we actually just lost all our snow here. But I'm excited to have you because you are so masterful in two mediums in such an equal manner. And I love the way that you work your atmospheric perspective, and the use of composition and tone and your landscapes is absolutely delicious to look at. It is something to study. I was actually staring at your work for that reason. I was like, oh yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And of course, that's a ton of hard work that I can tell went into that and continues to go into your work. So I admire you. And we're going to have even more reasons to admire you, both me and the listeners, shortly. But before we dive into all of that, do you mind telling us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, so everybody would like me to say that I'm an artist first, but I'm not. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and then I'm an artist. I put all of that in perspective in the way I said it. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm an artist. And an entrepreneur, and soon to be author. I'm working on that. So I'm adding some titles as I go along. But that's me. I live in Rhode Island. Most people think I live out west because I'm out there so much. But no, my home is actually Rhode Island. I'm from Indiana, and I have lived all over the place. So I decided to keep my home here in Rhode Island. My kids love it. So I have a great studio, and it's been hard, and it's been a long time in waiting, but it's here. So that's who I am. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm an artist.
Perfect. Yes. And, and that's something that I'm pretty sure a lot of artists listening to this podcast can relate to. Having that sort of tier of, my children, my family, and then of course my creative job or creative, I guess, endeavor, work, because it doesn't really feel like a job. I think for a lot of artists it feels more like vocation, calling, passion. Yes.
It's all of that. I have a deep passion for what I'm doing, and for all three of my jobs, a mother, grandmother, artist. I have a deep passion for all of that because you only get this one life. And you know what? I give it all as much as I can. And without passion, nobody, you don't go anywhere, you know. And I will tell, you know, let's start it off this way. You could have the most famous athlete, and he could be so talented. If he didn't have the passion, the talent doesn't go with him. So the same with art. If you don't have the passion, you can have the talent, but if you don't have the passion, you don't have the movement that you want to portray with people. So that's my number one thing I go on. It's all about passion.
Yes, and I totally agree. I think it's really interesting because it's very rare to find an artist who isn't passionate, at least a successful one. I think it's a lot easier to find it in artists who are maybe still finding their way, finding their footing, or figuring stuff out. But once, you know, you reach that point of like you have found the passion, that's I think when a lot of the career aspects really start to kick in, you know.
Just mind you, you can, you know, an artist is always evolving. It does not, you know, have I figured everything out yet? No, if I had, it'd be a whole lot easier than it is. But no, I have not figured everything out. I don't want to figure everything out because guess what? When you grow, it just makes that passion even more passionate. So we're always growing. We always need to be stimulated. We always need new locations or new things to paint or museums. We need other artists, you know, that we admire. I just listened to um, Eric Rhodes had someone on the other day with Clyde Aspovic. And you know what? You're never too old. You're never too famous. You're never too talented to just sit in and listen to other artists. And so, you know, that you're always growing, you're always evolving. And that's why, you know, you don't want to learn everything yet. You know, hopefully I make it to 90, you know, and in good shape and whatever. I will still be listening and, you know, growing at 90. So that's the other key thing you need to remember. You always got to grow.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I think that's one of the most important factors. And I think artists can see it a lot more clearly maybe than other professions, like maybe like office jobs or, you know, like the more typical path that someone might take. I think growth is a little bit more, it's seen in a little bit of a different way. But I think for artists, it's so obvious to us, like, because it's directly on the canvas, right? It's like, oh man, I really don't know how to describe this part of this tree, or I really don't know how to do this. And you have to figure it out in order to complete the image. You know, versus, oh, I have to learn something new on Excel, which if someone wants to do that, they can. But I think with art, it's so, I feel like there's a certain tenacity that we have to face or we have to have within us to really face the problem head first on the canvas because it's such a direct representation of our skills, our knowledge, our use of color, our use of composition, that it can defeat you so easily, you know, when it's too
It can
much.
take, yes, it can take you down really fast. You can think, wow, you know, you can do, for me, I can do a drawing and then a transport, you know, to start a painting, and you look at it and go, well, this isn't the way it's supposed to come out, you know. So it's both sides. I have a lot of failures, you know, and I call them some successes because I've yet to paint my best painting yet. You know, I that's the way I like to say it. I'm in competition with myself, not with anybody else. You know, it's I'm just in competition to grow and be better and paint better and learn and you know, so the only competition I have is with me, myself, and I. But it's art is so subjective. Your painting is so subjective. You know, reading a book is so subjective. You can interpret it so many different ways. But it's showing your creative side. So you have to get your mind to think, this will work out, this will be fine. Let me go back into my mind to figure out how to get it on canvas. So it's very subjective. And then you get very sensitive to what people might portray your painting as, or your book as, or whatever. But you have to remember, you're painting for you right now. Yes, you're painting for a gallery or you're painting for a show, but you're more or less painting for yourself. Because if it doesn't please you, it's not going in the gallery. It's not going in the show. So I'm painting for me, then it can go to other, the other events or the other venues. So yeah, it's very subjective. It's a very solitary job. I love my job. I spend, I would say, a good 10 to 12 hours in my studio. I can go upstairs and cook dinner because I love to cook. I love to make big soups and pots of this and pots of that. And to have that smell going through the house while I'm down in my studio is like a stimulant for me. I love stuff like that. So I multitask, but I'm in my studio 10 to 12 hours a day. And I'll bring my dinner down here and sit in front of my paintings. Um, I'll give you another thing I do in my studio. And I exercise in front of my paintings. So they're all lined up in the wall over here. And I exercise in front of like 4 or 5 paintings because those 4 or 5 paintings haven't gotten to where they need to be. So this is a little secret that you guys might want to try, but I have some really funky music I put on, and I have the most ugliest fun. I'm trying to get better at dancing, and I dance, and I do this for a good 30 minutes. And it's not a slow dance or whatever. I mean, I am dancing and doing the whole thing, and I do it in front of my paintings. And that is where I make the remainder of the decisions on how to finish that painting, is by exercising. And then after that, I get ready to paint, and then I stop and go cook, and then I come down. So it's, I spend a lot of time here by myself doing that, but it works. And then every now and then I got to take myself out to dinner. So that's my reward if something goes good. So
I
I
love
don't know.
that.
I don't know. We were talking about it. We've gone off on all these little angles, and I just sit here and I'm like, oh my God, people are gonna think she is weird. But no, I dance in front of my paintings. Try it. You'll like it.
Yes, and you know what? I love that you mentioned exercise because I love going to the gym, and I have actually found that exercise or even dancing, like how you're describing, sometimes leads to a very random epiphany in my work where like I'll be, working out and
Yes.
suddenly during my rest time between sets, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing. Of course, I'm gonna have to try that, and then, go back to the studio and then try it out. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but oftentimes it's a great epiphany.
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I swear it releases something in your brain.
Hmm.
And it puts you in a better mood, especially if you're dancing like me, so it puts you in a better mood. And you just figure things out, you get, it just works. Just try it, everybody. Dance in front of your paintings to really funky music, the way you want to dance. Nobody has to watch you, but you can figure things out in your paintings and in life and in work and in everything. It just works. You got to do the little happy dance.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Um, I'm all
But
for that.
exercise is a big form of my days, and the reason why that is because I have to stay healthy. That will, I'm going to touch base on later, but it's it's um it's also become an addiction. It's a good addiction because, like I said, it helps the mind, it helps life, it helps your mood, it helps your paintings. It helps everything. Plus, it makes you hungry to eat good soup that I just made on the stove. So it's a little, it does everything. Exercise is key to everything. It really is. And painting.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Especially because painting can be such a sedentary job, and it can be
Yes.
exhausting to be sitting for so many hours. And it's very important, like you said, to move around. It's the healthiest thing you can do. And actually, I wanted to ask you, when did you realize, or when was it, when was the moment that you noticed, okay, I am going to follow the path of the artist?
Oh, I was young. Oh, very young. When as far as if talking about age, I knew very early that I was an artist. And actually my teachers in elementary school did. My high school teacher actually had me a system in the local art center on weekends to help students learn to draw. My strength was in drawing. Painting was hard, but my strength was in drawing. But I knew very, very early. I was very young, and I come from an eclectic, artsy family. Um, and so we all do something a little bit different. My older brother is an amazing, he was what everybody focused on because he was so good. I had to work hard to get from point A to point B. Um, but I knew very early on. And then I threw myself out there into local art shows, where you paint and there were art shows that in the summertime. And then I threw myself into galleries. And, it was all trial and error. But I was, from elementary school, by the time I'm in my 20s, I was professional. I was selling. But my work has evolved a lot since then. But no, I knew very early. I mean, the schools would have me, oh, call Cindy, she can do it. Bring Cindy into the office. She can do that mural on the wall. And it was me or my older brother who was very talented. So we were known in school to do that. So it was early. I see it in my sons, because we have that little drawing skills, and I see it in my grandchildren. There's something, a little artsy with them. Plus we have music in my family. So, we're all a little eclectic, all a little strange. A little artsy, but I see it, I can see it in the younger generation, and that's so exciting to watch. But no, it was early, and I made the leap to become professional in my 20s, and then it just grew from there. But I knew early on. I knew I wanted to be an artist. I just did. I just didn't know where it would take me.
Yes, and you know what? That's a great point. I think a lot of people who embark on this artistic path journey, they don't really know where it takes you, and it can take you to so many different places. Because oftentimes, we start with one idea of what we think we want to paint or what genre we might want to dive into, and then as time goes on, all these influences come in. We have experiences in life. We come across a color that we suddenly feel like, oh, wow, this color is amazing. I want to play with this. And actually, that brings me to my next question, which is, since you've had such a very long time, to work on your craft and your skill, how have you noticed, or how did you notice how your process evolved, and how did you start to get to know how your brain works?
Oh my gosh, my brain. Oh, anybody that gets in my brain they're going, wow. um, uh, I have a different thought process than most other artists. Now, I am not traditionally changed. I worked in a tool and die company. I have no higher education. Um, I have to tell you, through trial and error, through mistakes, through certain artists that really inspired me when I was young. And I've tried them all. I've done charcoal, pastels, watercolors, oils. Um, it's all through trial and error. It's you got to make the mistakes. You've got to experiment. You have to do it all. You got to try different surfaces to find out what your style is. I am very comfortable in my style now, but I don't want it to become, how do I want to say? I still want it to grow, but I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing. I love teaching my style because it's different than most artists. I am different than most artists. I'm a more methodical thinker, painter. I have to draw things out and then think about it and then paint. I do it in stages. I work with especially with a watercolor, what might happen with them, if you have a mistake on a watercolor, which is very easy to do. I learned how to conquer that mistake and turn it into something beautiful. And the only way I learned this is because I made a ton of mistakes. I'm still making mistakes. There can still be a dud on a oil painting here that I just literally throw the canvas across the room and start all over. Because my thinking is, oh, that canvas has bad vibes on it. It's got to go out the door. I just get rid of the whole thing instead of painting over it later. Um, it's all through trial and error. You have to put the steps in, just like an athlete. My sons were shooters, and every day they had to make 100 straight shots. And guess what? If they missed one at number 79, they started over again at one to get to 100. And they did it. And they succeeded. They overachieved in what they were doing. And I look at myself that way. I am still evolving. I am still, would I call myself an overachiever? No, no, but I do know that I have so much room up here in my brain to learn something new. Don't give me a computer to learn on. That isn't, I can come and build you a garage. That's the way my brain works. So I'm giving you a little insight to my brain. My friends call me over. I come with tools. Don't bring me over to fix your phone, as you may notice, or the computer, or this or that, because that is, something happens and I short circuit. But if you said, I have a wall that just fell down, I said, I'll be right over. I got a toolbox. I can fix it. My brain is like a carpenter. It knows how to build, repair, fix, rethink. That's how my brain is. It's a different brain. But I am still, I'm still evolving. I'm still learning. I think that's the great thing. We have a big capacity to learn so much more. Um, so that's how it works. I'm different. I'm just different. And that's okay to be different. Every artist is different. Every artist can do things, handle things a little bit different way. I'm very methodical. I'm very slow thinking. I'm very like, okay, what if I do it this way? Can I conquer that part? If I do this, can I so that's the way my brain works. So that's the best way I can tell you. The art is in there. I don't know what part it's in or the creativity, because I'm not a doctor or, I don't, or a neural, I know none of that. It's just that I know I can build. And that's part of a painting. I can build a painting. So that's the way my brain is. My brain can build. So that's the best way I can tell you about my brain and how I do things.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what is very highlighted in how you describe yourself is that you are very much a proactive problem solver. But
Uh-huh.
also, I think you have something that I think our listeners should probably emulate because there's nothing better than talking to someone who has, that self-confidence in their skill, right? It's very different to be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and to like, plummet down into depression. But when it's like, I mean, I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna figure it out because I trust myself to figure things out. That's, I think, one of the biggest ways to determine how much a person can grow. And you definitely have
Yes.
that.
And the thing is, you don't put a time limit on yourself. Well, I need to grow by tomorrow. I need to have this painting by tomorrow. That doesn't happen for me. I'm a slow process and I figure things out and at my speed. Case in point, at plein air competitions, they say, well, you need 5 paintings for this, you need to do that, you need to paint here, you need to paint that there. And mind you, that's all good. I've done a ton of them. I had to take, when you tell me like there's artists out there doing 3, 4 paintings a day, and I'm like, no, I had to take myself out of the equation and go, wait, I'm going to get 1 painting done today. And how many do I need by the end of the week? I need 4. Okay. Then my brain is okay. But if you tell me, I got to build a library, I got to do this and I got to do that, it's like, oops, panic. And then I need to go have a scotch. It's something that happens to me. So then I decided, no, you'll have your 4 by the end of the week. It's not going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There will be 4, but those 4 paintings are going to be quality paintings. So that's how I how I work. Because if the last thing I want to do is 10 years down the road, go to somebody that purchased a painting at a plein air event. And I sit there and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And you bought that. I don't want that part. So that's why I made that rule up. Now, I don't do any more plein air competitions. Those are hard, and God bless every artist, and I've met a ton of friends, but it doesn't work for me. My mind is, I'm stressed, I have anxiety, and it's just like, no. So
Yeah,
that's
and
the
that's
other
another
part.
good point. Every artist, like you said, is different, and some
Mhm.
artists do really great with that level of stress and anxiety and pressure.
Um,
I'm very much like you. I crumble and I have a breakdown, and then I need to probably have a scotch with you, um, because it's too much. It's too much. I relate too with the methodicalness, right? Because sometimes, you have to understand what you're looking at properly and solve it through drawing it, sketching it, making studies of it in order to really hit that note that you want to hit with the painting,
yes.
which you certainly do. So it counts for something. I mean, your process definitely works for you, and that's the important part.
Yeah, it doesn't, and that's what makes us all unique. That's what makes every artist unique. We all have our own process, and it's okay. You want to take that long? It's okay. You want to paint faster? It's okay. But you got to find what works for you. I know what works for me, and so you got to find and once you find that, then you're set. Go. Paint as much as you can. Make as many mistakes as you can because you learn from your duds. And I have a lot of duds, and I tell all my students, those duds are a blessing. And here's the reason why. You learn more from your mistakes and your duds than you do anything that's successful. My sons would say, they would look at if they had a bad game, they would learn from that bad game. They're not going to look in the game that they made 30 points and made all these foul shots, because guess what? That happened and it was great, but they learned from their mistakes so they could get to those games to do to make the 30 points or whatever. So, you learn from your mistakes.
At BoldBrush, we inspire artists to inspire the world because creating art creates magic, and the world is currently in desperate need of magic. BoldBrush provides artists with free art marketing, creativity, and business ideas and information. This show is an example. We also offer written resources, articles, and a free monthly art contest open to all visual artists. We believe that fortune favors the bold brush. And if you believe that too, sign up completely free at boldbrushshow.com. That's BoldBrush show.com. The BoldBrush Show is sponsored by FASO. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a website when you're an artist, especially if you want to be a professional in your career. Thankfully, with our special link, faso.com/podcast, you can make that come true and also get over 50% off your first year on your artist website. Yes, that's basically the price of 12 lattes in 1 year, which I think is a really great deal, considering that you get sleek and beautiful website templates that are also mobile friendly, e-commerce, print on demand in certain countries, as well as access to our marketing center that has our brand new art marketing calendar. And the art marketing calendar is something that you won't get with our competitor. The art marketing calendar gives you day-by-day, step-by-step guides on what you should be doing today, right now, in order to get your artwork out there and seen by the right eyes so that you can make more sales this year. So if you want to change your life and actually meet your sales goal this year, then start now by going to our special link, faso.com/podcast. That's FASO.com/podcast. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. And I love that. Seeing the mistakes is a blessing, like you said, instead of
It is.
seeing them as, something that haunts you every night before bed. Maybe it's just me though. But it is good to see it.
That sometimes happens, but dance in front of that painting the next
Ah,
day, and then you
good point.
go, well, wait, I think I feel better about it.
Yes, definitely. And then I wanted to ask you because you have something very special in store for us today, and I'm very excited to hear about it. Do you mind telling us how you have leaned on your easel?
Okay, so this is a very personal story. And like I told you, you're the first person I'm coming out public with it. But it's a very personal story. I have been writing for years on it, and it will be part of my book. Well, it will be a big part of my book when it happens, because I think it's instrumental in helping every single person out there. It really is. And I'm going to give you a quick little outline and then tell you why I leaned on the easel. I grew when, as a child, we had a very unstable home. So it wasn't, that was the hard part. And then meeting somebody that literally destroyed I met a bad person, and I'll leave it at that. And then I married and had two wonderful sons, and we were in the sports world. We My job was tied to making them succeed. My husband was a Division I basketball coach, and my sons were professional basketball players. But the reason why they got to do all that is I had to devote my time to them, and then my art was last, which was usually in the middle of the night. It doesn't make for a good mood for you sometimes. So every chance I could get, I would get to the easel. And so finally, my career's going good and my kids are, off playing games, and I had shows lined up, and I knew I had a heart defect. I was born with a heart defect. So they basically told me this is at the young age of 50, that I was going into heart failure. And I went, yo, I haven't done everything yet. That was my first response. And he goes, well, we have to, you don't have a choice. So I said, okay, can we do it tomorrow? That's how I am. So, I don't let me sleep on this. Well, it took a month for them to map out what they were going to do to my heart. My heart basically wasn't formed right and was basically working backwards. And I developed pulmonary hypertension. And it was, I felt it because I'd been on heart meds for, oh my gosh, 20 years. And that's the way they were controlling, all the arrhythmias and stuff that was going on. But I still ran. I jogged, I exercised, I would walk the sand dunes, I would climb the mountains. I still did everything, I'm just thinking, hey, everything's fine, until they said, no, you're not fine. And so, it was in the middle of basketball season, and it was the wrong time to have the heart surgery, but there wasn't anything we could do. So I had to go do it. Um, I had a seizure that ruined my motor skills. So, but that was short lived. And so then I got that. I slowly got that back along with my eyesight. It was something that just happened, a little complication. And then I got pneumonia. And so I didn't leave ICU for 7 days. And there was a point where it was like, yeah, this isn't going well. So instead, they take the tubes out, and next thing you know, they're putting the tubes back in. And so it was a long 6-month rehab. But during that, I also got a huge depression. It was, and that will happen after, heart surgery. So the lucky thing is my studio was in the living room of our house. And what I did is I painted, I painted, I painted. And it took me out of my head. It took me out of the discomfort. I did my rehab. I did my walking. I did everything. And if you do everything they tell you to do, you improve each day. And then, I leaned on some medication to get the depression, better. And then I went off of it because I'm one of these, like, don't keep me on too long. I'll do this. When I went in for heart surgery, I said, I'm going to be out in 3 days. The big guy upstairs said, guess what? I got something to teach you. And so that was I had to cancel shows. I had to cancel workshops. I had no air. I could not walk and talk and breathe at the same time. I had to choose one thing. I had a little lung bag on to help drain the lungs. And it's only because they were making my heart work the right way. So they rebuilt my heart. And the cardiologist that did it, or the surgeon that did it, actually wrote about me in his book because I was a pediatric adult anomaly. And once they got in, he had to remap the way he was going to do the surgery because he found other stuff. So I was one of those teaching, like, students, they had everybody in there. And the funny thing is, I say this and as a joke, because you can tell I'm upbeat about it, but I said, I've had more men's hands on my chest that I wish it felt good, but it didn't. But guess what? It was education. Once again, I'm going back, everybody's learning, and they had to learn last minute how to revamp once they got in there. So it was major. It wasn't your bypass surgery or anything like that. It was major. They were trying to save my life, basically. So I get through the depression and I fly it's 6 months later, and I fly to Jackson Hole, Wyoming to have a show, the show that had to be canceled a little bit and then put back in. And I went with a girlfriend of mine. And here's the biggest, and I would love to send you that photo. It's, we did a hike, and I got up to Lake Solitude, and I did it. And I danced on the rocks, and it was, but guess what? I did it. It just took me a while to do it, but I did it. And I got off all meds. I'm now med free, no heart meds, no nothing, because they made my heart work the way it's supposed to work. But had it not been for my easel, my paintbrushes, and my paints, I could not write this story, because that is what got me from point A to point B, and I didn't give up. But I painted all day long. If I couldn't sleep at night, I painted, you name it, I painted. I painted my way through the whole thing. And that is one of the best medicines, art. Your books, I had all my art books out. I had, you name it, Scott Christensen, I had 2 of his books. I'm just laying them on the floor and I'm looking at them and I'm like, and then I could go to the easel and then I felt good. It's just, that was the best medicine that you could ever ask for, is the paintbrush, the paints, and the easel. It just, I needed my mind, the depression, everything was gone, and I'm back to hiking, and I'm just I'm doing it all the way I wanted to do. And so, but it just, a little detour. And then after that, my marriage failed. And that was 30 years plus. And so once again, I entered all those plein air competitions and I got in them. And then I went, oh my God, I'm doing it. And you know what? The roadmap and my traveling art studio was the best medicine I could do to get through that. So once again, I leaned on art. There's a common theme here. I just turned my attention to the art and took myself out of me. I took vacations from me with my art. It's like, I don't talk about me. I don't do this. I don't do that. I'm just painting. And because I'm a person that doesn't like to be sad or depressed. I just like upbeat things. So, and that was difficult. To be honest, I would not want that on anybody ever. And so now I'm back. My career is booming. I'm doing everything that you name it. I was going to move to Colorado. And so I was going to leave Rhode Island, and I thought my kids were on their own. They're working overseas. Everybody's happy. I did my job. So I was going to move to Colorado, and I put my home in a pod, sold a bunch of stuff, and in my car were 3 colors of suitcases: winter, spring, and like in between. So I knew, the pink suitcase was summer and this and that. So I had everything, color coordinated, and I had my little art studio thing, and I'm driving to, I'm on my way to Colorado. I had no home, absolutely no home now. So I'm going to Colorado to find something, and I stopped in Indiana to see my mom, and she was very ill. Next thing you know, I spent 6 months in Indiana because she had cancer. And so going to Colorado, guess what? I was like, okay, it just didn't happen. So my kids were coming home for the summer. So I drive back to Rhode Island. I have no home. So my girlfriend, my girlfriend and her husband, I mean, they are like my family. So I stayed with them for a few months until I could, purchase a home, because my kids came home and I thought, okay, I'll purchase a home. So went to my doctors. I did the cardiologist, and it was time for your colonoscopy. So I'm very upfront about this. I have my colonoscopy. I have cancer. I had no idea I had cancer. And taking care of my mom, she lived in a housing authority type place. And I had a little easel set up in her room. So that was my traveling easel. So once again, I'm setting up my traveling easel. And I sat there and I had the biggest, baddest, worst talk with the big guy upstairs, because I was like, this isn't supposed to happen this way. This isn't, I did all my jobs. I did everything I was supposed to do. My career is great. Everything's booming. I'm so excited. And guess what? Cancer doesn't care. Does not care. That was hard. And I went through, once again, that was a long process. And I did chemo and radiation every day for 8 weeks. And then I had little surgeries for the next couple of years. And but then my immune system took a big hit. So once again, did 7 years to repair my immune system from the chemo and cancer. But guess what I did? You're going to see the common theme. I painted. I turned to my easel, and guess what? I painted some most like I'm thrilled to talk about that, even though I had a lot of long, tough experiences. Painting brings me joy. So if you can give me a paintbrush and an easel, I'm happy. I really am. So that's the common theme. I turn my pain, my anxiety, everything I had to go through, I turned to the easel. The easel has never let me down. Now, it may paint a bad painting from time to time, but it's still standing. It's wooden, it's still standing, it's not going anywhere. And so guess what? You have to stand with it. And I painted every day, especially with cancer. There are nights like you just don't sleep. So I would paint. I just would, I'd go to my studio was in the basement, and I went to the basement and I would just paint and paint. And um, that was a good thing. And then, you got COVID, you got everything else, and nobody's doing anything. So I painted, and I got a whole lot done. So I'm trying to tell everybody here. Um, and once again, I'm still turning to my easel, to get through, the little things. Um, but I'm trying to tell everybody here that write a book, go cook, turn to cooking, turn to whatever, turn to paint, turn to something that art that brings joy and stimulates that creative mind. Because once you do that, it will take you out of your pain and your agony, because you have something else. You have a new best friend. That best friend is going to help you through all of this. And and the other thing, like, I want my friend, I have a lot of friends and I go out with them. I tell them, I said, I'm on vacation from me. We're going out to have fun. So I don't, every now and then, I have a nice little talk with a friend. But other than that, no, No, I work it out in my studio. I exercise. I beat my brushes up. I get the canvases going. I make mistakes, and I do it all to get into here, but to get out of here. So I get all the bad stuff out by exercising. I get all the good stuff in by painting. And so those are the things that there's other things in there, but that's going to be left for the reader. But I've had a challenge. I have had a challenge, but it didn't destroy me. Cancer, I'm a cancer survivor now. And I am very proactive on everything. If they said, oh, we got to go in and fix something, I have a pacemaker that makes me climb all the mountains, and yes, will we be tweaking me some more? Yes. The heart is something, now I beat cancer, but the heart is something we still have to fine tune every now and then. But it didn't stop me. What it did was actually make me fight harder. It actually made me work harder. It actually gave me discipline. It gave me a purpose. It gave me goals, because that's the way my brain works. Again, we talked about the brain. My brain can build things. So I know I can succeed. I know I can do these things, because I've had to turn to what is important to me: family, my family, my grandkids, my art. So and I'm very spiritual. I turn, I have my prayers with everybody. I have saints, gods, Jesus, you name it. I say my prayers, and I'm grateful for a lot of things, but I've also had a lot of stuff thrown at me that I had to fight for. And I had to figure out why the big guy upstairs gave me this walking path. But he did, he did. And my mom died a couple of months ago, and I was her hospice care person. And I went to, I'm emotional about this, you can tell. So, and my mom didn't like me too much. And I'm saying this laughing. She just had her reasons. And I think the reason why is I left home. I just left. I left Indiana, and which was good. I was breaking a cycle, to be totally honest. I broke a cycle. And so I went, but I was the one that held her when she died. So I was the one that was there for her. But this is what I did. Guess what I did doing this, being there with her? I had my little plein air easel beside her bed, and I painted. And she would call out every now and then. And I go, Mom, I'm still here. I'm painting. And I painted beside her bed. Because guess what? I turned to the brush again. I turned to the paints again. So you might see that in my paintings. I put a lot of emotion. I put a lot of atmosphere. I put a lot of that in. It's because I'm going on all the stuff I went through to get from point A to point B. I don't know what's coming down the road. All I know is I have healthy kids. Everybody's on their own, and I can tackle it. And I will have my paintbrush. I will have my easel. It comes in many sizes. I got the big easels and I got the traveling easels, but I will have those because that is what is going to save me. So that's this little story that you're getting a little snippet of it. There's a lot of ugly stuff in between some of that, but that's my story on why I paint. I paint because I love it. I paint because someone gave me a blessing. Someone gave me a talent. I paint because I feel it. I paint because I want to share it. And I want to share my story because I think it will help people along the way that thought, this is just too hard, I can't do it or whatever. You can do it. You can do it. And Jimmy Valvano's favorite sayings, never, never, ever give up. And that is the one thing I always remember. It's not my saying, but it's something you got, you got to give your best. You really do. You got to give the most that you can. So I'm very passionate about it. This book has taken me a long time. I've had a writer look at it and like, yeah, don't quit your day job yet. But guess what? I'll get there. So no, it's coming along. So I gave you a short little outline of why I'm passionate about the things I do.
Yes, and
So
thank you so much for sharing that. It is so inspiring to have you, of course, on the other side of the screen and to hear this because you're such, like you're saying, you're very upbeat. You're a go-getter. You're so, like, you would never imagine that you have gone through so many trials and tribulations in life. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sure one of our listeners out there might, find themselves in a similar position and will definitely need your words
yes, and
because
guess what?
it's.
I still have bad days. I go shopping. I do something.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go have a steak dinner somewhere. I mean, this is just me. I don't like to stay in the funky area of the yeah, of that. I have to I have to go. No, I got to get out of this. Just go. I tackle the issues I need to tackle, but so does my easel. I sit with my easel and I tackle it with my easel. That's my best friend. So my kids are on their own. They're doing their things, but the easel is always with me.
Yeah, it's all
So I
reliable.
hope it helps.
Yes, I would say so. I'm very inspired. It's really great too because it also puts things in perspective. Of like, if someone such as you, for example, would go through a moment where suddenly you can lose the rest of your time, right? The time that you thought you had left to live, suddenly you're told, oh, it's going to be cut short or you might not make it. I think that really highlights what your priorities are in life, right? Like, what
Hmm.
means so much to me? What do I want to do with the time that has been given to me? Um, and what would I do now if I knew tomorrow was my last day? I think those are very
Right,
important things to consider.
right, right. No, seriously,
Yeah.
I've had two major obstacles that I had to fight for my life. That's basically, I had to fight. I've always been in survival mode. And but I turn it into a good survival mode instead of a bad survival mode. And it does shape you as a human being. It shapes you as an artist. What this has shaped me is what the reason why I paint the way I paint. And I'm not done yet. I want to travel. I want to paint Switzerland. So I've got to keep my heart in shape because I'm climbing and painting. Those are things, those are goals. I have goals that I'm going to do. So those are things I look at.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes, yes. And then I'm curious, do you know more or less when your book might be out?
Oh, it's in the process writing. The title of the book is going to be called The Guilt Box. But there's a little segment in the book that's about the ever-changing palette. And that refers to life and your artwork. So, life is an ever-changing palette, but so is your artwork. So it's got a double whatever that word is, it's got a double meaning to it. But No, it's good. It's gonna be it's I want to help people out, and it's a real life story. I've had some nice, not nice things, growing up, and I just I want to share it, that that part doesn't have to define you, but it does define you. But you got to turn that defining into what you really want the people to see you defined as, not what you think you should be defined as, like, oh, I just can't do it. With my heart surgery, do you think, the average person out there isn't going to go hike the Tetons? They're going to go, nah, I'm going to stay low. No, I'm not even going to leave my house. I did it. And I had major construction work. It's like bridges and you name it. It's like overpasses. That's how much construction work they did. But I was like, no, I need to climb that mountain. I need to get there. It was the most exhilarating thing I'd ever experienced. It was, and I'm going to send you that photo when we hang up. It was exhilarating. Mind you, I lost like 20 pounds, and I shouldn't lose 20 pounds, and it was hard, but it was good. But I painted. I did. I hiked it. I painted. I had a show at a gallery in town, and I had the best time of my life. I did. best time of my life.
Yes. Wow. I think I also really love how you're very much expressing, this dark side that has happened, but then you're so full of light. You're so bright. You're so like, really making lemonade out of the lemons, as much as
Well, I
possible.
can't change anything. You can't
Yeah.
change a thing, but you can change this.
Yes.
But you can't change a thing. Yeah, I can't change any other thing to make it better or whatever, but you can change this. And this is changed through art, my painting. So paint.
Yes.
I don't want you to say, I don't have time. No, you have time. Go paint. No,
Yes.
I
You
don't
gotta
have
make
time.
time.
Don't do that.
Yes, totally. And I also really admire your discipline, which, of course, having had worked with athletes and in athletic fields, I think it's excellent to have built that discipline as well. Which actually kind of leads me into my next question, because you were very busy being a mother as well, being a family woman, helping your sons, working alongside them in their basketball careers. When did you notice, or when did you finally make the jump into becoming a full-time artist? And then what was that jump like for you?
Um, the jump, well, everybody would say you were a full-time artist, raising your kids, because I'd paint at night, um, the jump came slowly because I was already gradually getting into being more full-time. Right now, I'm labeled full-time and overtime. It's the jump wasn't bad. Paying your bills is what helps you jump even a little bit more. It's like, okay, I got bills. I bought a home, I've got a beautiful home, and I've got things I'm doing to it. But the jump was slow, methodical again, and I had to pay bills. And so, you know what? It's just like, okay, I'm going to pay the bills. I can do this. And I was already there because I had gallery representations. So I had things that had to be somewhere. I just got to do it more. Like my sons were overseas, and I was single. So therefore, you know what? I had all the time in the world. So it was slow and methodical, but so it really wasn't hard for me. Um, making sure the bills were paid were, that gives you a whole lot of discipline.
Oh yeah.
You can't tell the electric company, sorry, I can't pay you this month, so it's paying the bills is a big goal. And guess what? I had a little cushion. I could go full time, because being married, I still, he didn't rely on my income. My income actually hurt us. So, we got to rely on his income, and he did very good. That's an art in itself, and we're good friends. But so like I said, it was a slow, methodical. So it was very easy for me to do. It really was. It was very easy.
Yes.
Um, I know for other people it's hard, because you might not have the cushion behind you. I had a cushion behind me. And so I couldn't use a lot of the cushions, but I still had to make I still had to get out there and make a living. So and uh and it worked. Now I have a nice cushion because I'm on Social Security. Yeah. So guess what?
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, it's definitely, it takes a lot of pressure off, and it is
It
useful
does.
and helpful to have had spousal
Yeah.
support when you had it, and
Yeah.
it's
And you
also
know what?
great that oh yeah, continue.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have
Okay.
interrupted you, but guess what? You do need that support system. And people out there have family, or friends, or whatever. You do need that support system without a shadow of a doubt. So,
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. I think also because it really does alleviate a lot of the pressure, which, as we were saying before, sometimes for some artists, it might be hard to have that financial pressure behind you. You know, like, oh gosh, I got to pay the bills and I haven't sold anything. Because as you know, with this career, it's highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. And it's very much planning for the future. You got a high moment where, oh, I made a good amount of money. Okay,
Mhm.
I need to make sure that I'm putting a good portion of that into a backup account because I don't
Absolutely.
know if I'm going to sell anything for 6 months straight. And if I don't sell anything for 6 months straight, I don't want to be worried that, oh no, I'm going to get kicked out of my house. Um,
Absolutely.
yes. And I think that's also why a lot of artists also tend to have day jobs or they have other, reliable sources of income, especially today. Um,
And I think yes, especially today, and the younger artists coming up without any support system. I know it's hard, and I'm a big advocate for them. I love to buy other artists' paintings. Christmas gifts I buy from artists because it's great to support them. So times are tough, even though it's I am okay, but today, everybody is holding on a little bit, tighter. So you need that other job, or you need something. And that, it's hard right now until things like stable out. It's hard right now. I have to tell you, during COVID, I had a great year because I think everybody redesigned their homes and was buying art. It was a really weird thing. You would think nobody, would be buying. That was weird. But today, everything it's hard, and I'm at a different stage in my life, so it's different. But for the younger artists, yeah, it's hard. You may, if I had to get out there, I would be the best waitress in the most expensive restaurant, or I would be a bartender and I would do a great job. That's what I would do, just so I don't, tax my mind or something like that. But no, I would turn it around to like, no, I'll be the best at that, but I can still paint at night or something like that, or during the day.
yes,
So no, but
yes.
it's hard now. It really is. And I feel for that. And I buy when I can. I buy from artists.
Mhm. Yes. And actually, this leads very well into my next question, which obviously, now things are a little bit different, but is there anything that you've noticed? And in general, I think a lot of the things that have worked um, in business and marketing in the past can still work, especially in the art world, since a lot of it is very much still in-person networking or real life meeting other people or connecting with other people. What would you say is the biggest marketing or business advice that has helped you in your career?
Um, it's changed over the years. The biggest marketing advice, at a time, Facebook and Instagram is a great freebie, and that's changing now for artists because you used to get all these, exposure and all this kind of stuff. So they're changing that too, and they're now wanting money to boost things and blah blah blah. And to be honest, we all knew this would probably come because it's been many years of just free online exposure and all that kind of stuff. And I'm a big advocate. When you do that, you stay very business. Don't go down any other avenue. Don't bring in anything else. Every now and then on Instagram, it's all my paintings. On Facebook, I did find um, collectors and gallery do like to know a little bit about um, who you are. Like I'll post something about my sons, or it would be something like that. They like to know there's that little personal side, but don't go under any other avenue. And you keep it very business-like. And the reason why galleries they need to know, they don't want to know, what your belief is in this and blah, blah, blah. They want to know how well they can rely on you to get them the paintings they need, to talk to their collectors, to go meet their collectors. They want to know that very business side of you and that little bit of personal. whether it's your kids or something else. But the galleries watch this. You may not know that, but galleries do watch that. Also, another good marketing thing, and I am a signature member with Plainer Painters of America, and I'm also a master with Oil Painters of America and American Impressionist Society and Laguna Plainer Painters, and there's a couple others on there. I keep very professional with them. My paintings that go in those shows. Now, this is another good marketing thing, but yet a professional thing you need to do is I see out there, because I judge a lot of these shows, that an artist gets one painting and next thing you know, it's in all the same shows. No, you need to make sure that you produce something new for them, because galleries, once again, and artists and professionals like to see that you can create something new. They need to know you're just not a how do I want to a one painting person or whatever I'm trying to say with that one. But you need to your website needs to be updated. I'm very lax in that, and I take note to myself to make sure I keep that one updated. Your resume needs to be updated, and you need to treat these shows very professional. And if you get involved with an art group, you need to make sure your dues are paid, because they look at that too. You need to make sure everything is in line so they know you're professional, and then you'll be invited to maybe demo at a show or something like that. So all these things are little marketing skills that you need to keep very professional. And then you just have to get out there. You just have to go to a local restaurant or something and look at their walls and say, listen, do you mind if I just hang a painting in here? And that's exposure. There's all these different little marketing skills. Get your business card, your little brochure, a little booklet. I do little postcards. Um, um, when I meet somebody, I have clients that call me, and I have to be very professional with them and send photos, and yet respect their privacy. And yet, but that's all marketing skills, because that person goes to the next person, said, you need a painting, you go to this person. So these are all those social skills that you need to keep up to date or in good favor. I'm looking for the right word for that. When I was younger, I did all these outdoor park shows, and I had a trailer. I had it all. And I would drive to all these shows all through the Midwest and the East Coast, and I did very well. I would paint all winter and did about 6 shows in the summertime. And then it came a time where, I had to stop doing that so I could travel with my sons. But so those outdoor park shows, I still have people coming to me, goes, oh, I have this painting. Do you have anything else or whatever? So these are things, it may come back from way back when to now, but just stay very professional with what you do. And once again, the internet is great with that. I know nothing of TikTok or any of the other kind of stuff. I don't know that. I'm just on Instagram and Facebook, and I post every now and then. You don't have to post every day, but when you do post, make sure you give a little story about that piece of art or whatever, how something relates to this or relates to that. And that's another great marketing skill. Go to galleries. I'm in about 5 galleries now, and that I can't handle anymore. But one of the galleries, Cheryl at Highlands Art Gallery in Lambertville, New Jersey, I was at a basketball tournament with my son, and I went, oh, that's only an hour that way. I'm going to drive over there and go to the gallery because I always knew about her gallery. And I went in there and I introduced myself. I didn't say, hey, I'm looking for representation. I didn't bring in art or anything like that. I just went to introduce myself. And you know what? That was great. Guess what? A year later, she called me and she goes, I'd like to represent you. But she also follows to make sure, this is why I'm going back to that, your postings and all that, they follow to make sure you can create new work. You're not just creating one piece of work and taking it 6 different areas. They look at the work you're creating, and they don't want to hold your hand or beg you for a painting or walk you through something. They need to know that it's like, I'll get it. I have a gallery in California, Cargus Fine Art, and uh, they keep me tied to the easel. So I mean, it's really good. So I know when something goes out the door, I've got another one going on the easel. So, and I go out there for a month or so at a time, and I plein air paint. So, and I stop in and I see them and talk to them. I'll be out there again in the spring, but I got to go north. They have people I've got to go see, and I've got to paint up north in California. So it's as far as marketing, um, try everything. I'm quite sure there's going to be something new coming down the road, and stay very professional. Go out and meet gallery owners. Don't go carrying a painting in like in the old days. Just go in and meet them, and then you can tell them, well, I'm an artist, and you know what? You never know what will come with that. And there's new things. I think there's a new avenue on the internet, and I can't remember what it was called. Somebody wrote about it, and I can't remember what it was called, but there's going to be a ton of new things coming down the road. So you got to try it all. Just stay very professional. Introduce yourself and stay very professional.
Yeah, you make some excellent points about the art world, because a lot of it has become very online
Yes.
stuff like Facebook, Instagram, and that is very useful, but it's still at its core a very people-focused career. You have to, like you said, you have to go and introduce yourself. You have to,
Mhm.
talk to people. You have to be basically, you have to present yourself to be in front of mind, right? If you want to work with a
Mhm.
gallery, the gallery is not going to know who the heck you are if you don't go up to them and present yourself. And obviously not with the sole intent of working, using them, right? Because they're people too, and they're a lot of artists have described galleries and working with galleries as a relationship, whether it's family or a marriage, either one. So
Mhm.
it is a very people focused thing. And talking to other artists, going to shows, going to any event that has other artists and galleries and collectors, it is so people
Mhm.
focused. You would be
It is.
surprised, since it's such a lonely career.
One other avenue is the gallery in California, Cargus Fine Art. He saw a painting of mine because I won an award at Laguna, and he saw it and he called me. He goes, I'd like to represent you, because it was in a magazine. So that's the other avenues. The magazines are good too. So yeah, and they have great programs for artists and payment plans and whatever. So the magazines will work well for you, and that's how I got into some of the galleries, is they saw my paintings and called. So that's another avenue, and it gets expensive, but ask the magazine and the advertisers, can you work with me? I need help. So it doesn't hurt to ask.
No, exactly. And you have to have the just the worst thing they can say is no.
Right.
Like, just ask. That's
Mhm.
also one of my favorite things to think about. It's like, well, what have I got to lose? I already am not in the magazine, so might as well ask. Um, but yeah, and then I wanted to ask you if you have any final advice for anyone listening out there who wants to be either a full-time artist or make a living from their work.
Okay. Just got to do it. There's a famous slogan. It's not my slogan, but it's a Nike slogan. It says, "Just do it." You just got to do it, but don't procrastinate, because guess what? You might not be able to paint tomorrow. So you got to do it today. So don't procrastinate. We made that word as artists. Try to eliminate eliminate that in your vocabulary. So you just got to go, you just got to do it, and don't procrastinate, and just know there's a space for you somewhere. There's a lot of artists out there. There's a space for you. You can find that space. You know, it will happen if you work hard enough for it. I have a great work ethic, and I have goals. I have my faith, and I have my family. So, you know, I put everything in the proper order and just do it. Tomorrow is not promised. I didn't make that slogan, but tomorrow is not promised for anybody, you know, so do it today. So
Yes.
that's the best advice I can give you. And don't worry about failure. I'm still failing.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's my advice. You just got to do it.
Perfect. And then, do you have any upcoming shows or exhibitions or workshops that you would like to promote?
Last year, I was on the road so much, and I said, I'm not going to do that this year. Guess what? I'm looking at my chalkboard because I'm a little old school here. But I have a solo show at the Providence Art Club in Providence, Rhode Island, coming up in May. But I have two workshops, one in Atlanta. It's two workshops, one's in oil and one's a watercolor. And guess what? It's all on my website if you want to find it. And then I have um, I'm teaching two again in Scottsdale, Arizona. Love that area in April, the end of April. And that is what 1 week is a watercolor and 1 week is an oil. And then I'm once again, just like last year, I'm renting a car and I drove through the canyons and painted. All solo. And I went to Sedona and painted. I went to the Grand Canyon and painted. I went to the Vermilion Cliffs and painted. I'm doing the same thing, but I gotta be in Utah at oh my gosh, I'm not quite sure. And that will be in May. And so I'm going to be on the road again for another 3 weeks. And I said I wasn't going to do this, but it just looked so appetizing that I gotta go. So I'm doing that. And then in September, I'm with a group of very talented, amazing women. And we're called the Wild Women of the West, but they live on the East too. So it's a show. And that will be in September, which will be on my website. Um, and so, yes, I have a lot coming up. And then July and August, it's Gigi Camp. I get my grandkids and they call it Gigi Camp. So we have fun. So I devote that time to family. And then September, it's back to work. So
Beautiful. Yeah.
that's
And
it.
then,
But I'll have it all on my website. I
perfect.
can't list all the dates, but it will be up on my website.
Perfect. And do you mind telling us what your website is and also your
And
social media?
okay, it's cindybarron.com. And then it's basically Cindy Barron Art. Cindy Barron, just Google Cindy Barron and it's right there. My kids kept it, my kids set that up. So they kept it very easy for me to get in.
Yes.
So it's just cindybarron.com. So you can look at you can go there. On my website, I have I just updated with the coming workshops and I got a update with the shows coming up. And then I do the Coeur d'Alene art auction. I'm an invited artist, so I paint for that, and that's in May too. So these are all things that will keep me tied to the easels behind me.
Yes. All reliable.
Yes.
Yes. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing your
You.
incredible story. I am so looking forward to your book. I think I would definitely love to read a copy of it in the future. So I will sign up to your newsletter so you can
Yes. Yes.
notify me when it's ready because I'm so down to read it. But thank you so much for being here on the show today.
Thank you. I so appreciate you thinking of me, and I appreciate that so much. And I wish the best for you and your endeavors, and just paint.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone out there for listening to the podcast. Your continued support means a lot to us.
If you've enjoyed the episode, please leave a review for the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or leave us a comment on YouTube. This helps us reach others who might also benefit from the excellent advice that our guests provide. Thank you.